A sound like thunder tore through the morning calm, not from the sky, but from the earth. The gorilla exhibit, usually a haven of leaves, shadows, and gentle fruit munching, exploded with energy as a 600-pound silverback named Bongo slammed his fists into the dirt with such ferocity that the vibration could be felt through the solace of shoes. The crowd froze. Zeus Wildlife Reserve had seen its share of animal dramas, but this was something else. A primal energy surged through the air, thick and ancient, as if the jungle had come roaring into the human world. Bongo stood there, massive and shaking, nostrils flaring, his eyes locked not on the gawking tourists or the frightened parents pulling their kids back, but somewhere deeper. Beyond the glass, beyond the safety of fences, then again boom. He struck. This time, the ground near the barrier quaked. Children began to cry, a mother stumbled backwards, cameras dropped. Yet in the middle of it all, a single child, no more than 4 years old, stood unmoved. One small palm pressed against the safety glass, his gaze locked with the giants. The world shrank. The crowd faded. It was just the boy and the beast. And something ancient passed between them. For the spirit of the wild speaks in silence, reads an old proverb from the Congo. And only the innocent hear it. Sarah's radio crackled to life like a lightning strike in her ear. Emergency gorilla exhibit unusual behavior may be dangerous. But she was already running before the message finished, her boots pounding against the wooden walkway like the beat of a warning drum. The path blurred, trees flashing past her periphery. Every second mattered. The closer she got, the louder the echoes became, slams, roars, the tremble of something big unraveling. Bongo was not just restless. He was alert, focused, hunting. But not for prey, he was protecting. His massive frame shifted restlessly, pacing the perimeter of his habitat, eyes darting toward the slope beyond the barrier like a sentry on the edge of war. Around him, chaos bloomed. Tourists pointed, security scrambled, someone tried to calm the children. But that small boy, the same one, was back, closer now. Tiny fingers wrapped around the metal rail, no fear, no hesitation. Sarah's heart caught in her throat just as Bongo charged. The fence shook like a tree in a hurricane. A metal panel broke loose and clattered down. Panic surged, screams erupted. But the boy didn't flinch, he just looked. And Bongo, as if struck by something, unseen, stopped. His chest heaved. He stepped back. "Who are you?" Sarah whispered, lifting the child gently. But the boy said nothing. Stillness returned, but it felt borrowed, temporary. Like the eye of a storm? Even the wild shall speak to children, says the scripture of the earth keepers. For their hearts are still made of dawn? He's never done that before, a young zookeeper whispered, eyes wide. A dart team was already prepping behind the scenes, but Sarah raised her hand. Not yet. Something about Bongo's movements was too calculated to be a stress reaction. He wasn't erratic, he was watchful, protective. She turned back toward the place where his eyes had locked in such intensity. The slope beyond the barrier, quiet and covered in swaying branches, seemed peaceful. But Sarah felt it too, a wrongness in the air, like the breath before an earthquake. She checked her watch. 9:46 a.m. The second she looked up, it happened. Tremor, subtle, just enough to ripple the dust around her boots, and Bongo felt it. His head snapped upward, and from deep within his chest, a low, sonorous rumble began to grow. Not a roar of anger, but a warning. A sound that had echoed through the wild for millennia, long before fences, before cameras, before zoos. A primal signal the crowd didn't understand. Most didn't even notice, but Sarah did. Her hand instinctively gripped the child tighter. Nature whispers to those who listen, an old forest elder once told her. But when it cries, the wise must act. Inside the control room, fluorescent lights buzzed. The video monitors played back loops of the incident over and over, Bongo charging, stopping, watching. Sarah leaned in, sweat trailing down her neck. "Freeze it there," she ordered. And the image locked. Bongo's head tilted not toward the boy, but up toward the hill. A shadow passed through her thoughts. Maybe it was a bird, someone muttered, but Sarah didn't answer. She scrolled through Bongo's old medical files, reports, behavior logs. Then she found it a note buried deep in a transfer file. Survived hillside collapse in Cabal. Displayed extreme anxiety days before event. Her heart raced. No one had taken it seriously. Just coincidence, they'd said. But now, she dug deeper. An attachment, a photo. She opened it with trembling hands. There he was, younger, muddier, gaunter, Bongo, and beside him, a small, wide-eyed baby gorilla, clutching his arm with everything it had. The caption chilled her. Adult male protected infant for 3 days before separation for medical treatment. Infant died in transport. The tablet slipped from her grasp, shattering on the floor, but Sarah didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on that image, the look in Bongo's eyes, the same grief, the same fury, the same love. The heart of the wild remembers loss, an old sanctuary priest had once said, and it mourns in silence until it is forced to roar. Another tremor rolled through the land, stronger this time. The walls shook, visitors looked up. Someone dropped a coffee cup that shattered against the stone path. The silence afterward was filled by whispers, gasps, shifting feet. Security finally pushed people back, but Sarah stood frozen. Bongo had retreated to the far end of his enclosure, fists clenched, breath heavy. He wasn't frightened. He was listening. His ears twitched. His nose sniffed the air. His soul, ancient and wounded, recognized the pulse of the earth. He remembers, Sarah whispered. She turned back toward the hill just as a dark crack split the ground near the viewing platform. Not wide. Not yet. But real, the warning had. Come not from science, not from sensors, but from a creature who had already survived the wrath of Earth once before. Visitors began to scream, but not Bongo. He stood tall now. Watchful, a sentry, a guardian. In that moment, Sarah understood. He wasn't just protecting himself. He was protecting them all. The boy, the people, the hill, the world. Sometimes, she remembered reading, God sends angels in fur with broken hearts and ancient eyes. Sarah clutched the shattered tablet like a sacred relic, ignoring the spiderweb of cracks slicing through its glass. Her breath caught as the image still shimmered beneath the fractured screen. Bongo, younger, drenched in mud, holding his lost baby close, a father whose strength couldn't stop fate. Her throat tightened. He thinks it's happening again, she realized, heart pounding. Bongo wasn't reacting, he was reliving. Grief, when buried deep, doesn't die. It waits, and when it rises, it howls. Sarah turned and sprinted toward the administrative office, boots pounding like gunfire on the tile floor, tablet pressed to her chest like a confession. She burst into the room, startling the staff. Evacuate the entire gorilla area now, she shouted, brows raised. A supervisor leaned back in his chair, voice calm and cold. You expect us to clear a visitor zone based on a gorilla's emotional outburst? Sarah didn't blink. She lifted the cracked screen. The image glowed defiantly through the broken glass. No, she said, voice shaking under the weight of a truth too big to ignore. I expect you to believe the only living soul here who's already lost everything, and is doing everything he can to stop it from happening again. Outside, Bongo had begun circling, not randomly but with purpose. He sniffed the dirt. Near the back of his enclosure, pawed at a worn-down wall, lowered his head, and moved like a soldier tracing familiar ground. Sarah's breath caught again. He was remembering. Grief didn't cloud his senses, it sharpened them. Nearby, a child's voice pierced the rising noise. Mommy! He's trying to escape! A young mother hushed him, glancing nervously at the staff. Then came a radio transmission, tight, uncertain. He's at the weak point, lower fencing, old concrete. Not meant for this kind of pressure. And Bongo stood there, hand pressed to the wall, muscles tight, gaze burning. He had lost one. He would not lose another. Grief is love with. Nowhere to go, a sanctuary prayer once whispered. But give it a reason, and it becomes the strongest force in the world. The sound came fast and brutal, a snap that echoed like a bone breaking through time. A plume of dust exploded upward, as if the earth itself had cried out in warning. Concrete crumbled, metal screeched, and in the chaos, Bongo was already moving. Not toward the crowd, not toward vengeance or fear, but toward the hill. toward the exact place his spirit had been anchored since that terrible day 4 years ago. Visitors screamed, a stroller tipped over. A soda cup spilled and rolled. But Bongo never looked at them. His eyes stayed fixed ahead, on the land that once betrayed him, on the slope that whispered its threat again. "He got out," shouted a guard through his radio. "Which direction is he heading?" Sarah didn't run, she watched. Bongo moved. With furious purpose, his massive body gliding like a wave of instinct. His soul led the charge, not his limbs. And then there he was, the boy. That same little boy, somehow alone again, standing near the slope's edge, unaware of the widening fracture beneath him. His hand stretched out toward the broken fence. The same soft palm, the same gentle eyes. In Bongo's mind, time collapsed. The past and present became one, his child. That moment. That helpless second when he couldn't reach fast enough. But this time he was closer. This time he had seen the signs early. This time he would not be too late. He roared not in rage, but in remembrance, in desperation, in love. The sound cracked through the air like a hymn of warning. He charged. Dust rose behind him. People froze. A mother dropped to her knees, praying. A teacher screamed, but Bongo was focused. His target wasn't the boy, it was time itself. And he beat it. He struck the child not with violence, but with life-saving urgency, flinging the boy backward away from the ledge. The child rolled once, twice, and stopped, just as the hill crumbled beneath where he had stood. The earth gave way in a violent groan, swallowing the wooden railing, benches, and soil into a deep, jagged maw. Silence followed. Dust choked the air, then stillness. The earth opened wide, but love moved faster, the old jungle psalm sang. Silence weighed heavy. A brown fog of dust clung to every shape. Coughs echoed, eyes searched the haze. Then, movement small, unsteady, the boy. He sat up, sobbing, blood trickling down one temple, his tiny hands shaking. But alive, and near him, coated in mud, chest heaving like a war drum, lay Bongo, arms outstretched, face turned toward the broken earth, as if shielding it from taking anyone else. He didn't move, didn't roar, just breathed, heavy and uneven, releasing 4 years of buried guilt with every exhale. This time he had made it. Sarah pushed through the crowd. People shouted for her to stop, to wait, to protect herself. But she didn't hear them. She only saw him. She dropped to her knees beside the giant who had once been called dangerous, now laying like a savior in the dirt. She held the tablet still clutched in her hand. The cracked screen glowed faintly. Bongo and his lost baby side by side. And now, in real time, a new image. A boy saved, a father finally redeemed. He wasn't hurt, just watching, waiting for more danger. But Sarah saw what others couldn't. His fury was gone. In its place, peace, strength, forgiveness, around them. People began creeping forward. One man fell to his knees and wept. Another whispered, "He rescued him." A trainer said, "He knew." But Sarah knew more than that. "He remembered what it felt like to fail," she said quietly. And this time he changed the ending. Rescue teams arrived, scanning the cracked hillside with gear and caution. "This ground's been unstable for weeks," one expert said. "Studying the fissures." "He must have felt it before any of us did." A young zookeeper shook her head. "No, he knew," he was trying to tell us. In a nearby office, staff replayed the video over and over. Bongo lunging forward, shoving. The boy, collapsing to the earth just as the cliff gave out. Frame by frame, they watched not a beast, but a guardian. Not instinct, but intention. But Sarah saw something else, a father getting a second chance and taking it. Medical teams examined the boy, shaken, scratched, scared, but whole. A teacher rocked him gently. "You're okay," she whispered again and again. Outside, Bongo hadn't moved. He sat at the shattered edge, chest rising, arms still wide, a statue of what redemption looks like. And for the first time in 4 long years, the invisible weight pressing on his back was gone. Sarah approached, slow, hands raised, not in fear, but in respect. He didn't flinch, didn't flee. Their eyes met. His closed, then opened, not wild, not broken, but seen. Behind them, the zoo director stood, frozen radio in one hand, tranquilizer in the other. "We almost shot him," he murmured. "No," Sarah replied, gripping the shattered tablet like a truth too heavy to ignore. "You almost silenced the only one who knew what loss really feels like." News spread like fire across screens and headlines. Gorilla saves child from collapsing hill. The footage stunned the world. No rampage, no chaos. Just a giant stepping in when no one else saw the danger. Bongo, the angry gorilla, became something else. A story of love that refused to die. Sarah sat beside the cracked tablet, watching the viral video loop beside the old photo. 2 children, one lost, one saved. "He tried to warn us," she whispered. Some wanted Bongo moved isolated again. Sarah stood firm. "You don't punish someone for caring too deeply," she said. He risked everything because he understood. The zoo relented. A new section was built, not a cage, but a sanctuary. A quiet memorial rose beside the repaired hill. Photos, flowers, stories. One day, the saved boy returned. He carried a small clay sculpture of a gorilla. He pressed his hand to the glass. Bongo met him there, massive palm resting on the other side, not with fear, not with anger, with thanks. And the boy mirrored him, skin to glass, soul to soul. Now, when children visit, they don't just see an animal. They hear a story. They learn that sometimes the wild doesn't roar to threaten, it roars to protect. That sometimes being wild means healing what the world forgot. In the warm light of dusk, Bongo sits beneath his favorite tree, eyes always on the hill, and for the first time in years, he is at peace.